Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of High Energy Girl. And today's amazing guest is here for a second time. Her name is Alison Gannett. And in case you don't remember, Alison was diagnosed with a terminal malignant brain cancer in 2013 and given only 6.8 months to live, even with surgery, chemo, and radiation. So after a partially successful surgery, she found Dr. Nasha Winters, who helped her restore her health. So Alison is the founder and director of Alison Gannett's Personalized Oncology Nutrition, an instructor, mentor for Dr. Nasha Winters' TAP program, founder and coach of the Personalized Nutrition Training course, graduate of Nutrition Network's professional training in low-carb, high-fat, ketogenic nutrition and treatment and ethics program, and the list goes on and on. I am so impressed with this woman, and I highly recommend anybody who is suffering with cancer to reach out to her at www.alisongannett.com. So let's go and say hello to Alison. Hey everyone, welcome to High Energy Girl, a podcast helping women to age stronger because it is never too late to get fit, be strong, and feel sexy. I'm your host, Tracy Gluhite, health coach and personal trainer and founder of highenergygirl.com. Each week, we will either have a guest interview, which will provide you encouragement or an actionable tip to help you age stronger, or I will do a solo episode. Please also join our awesome Facebook group called High Energy Girls, and I'm looking forward to see you on the inside of that group and hope you enjoy today's show. Hey everyone, this is Tracy, and I have a special announcement. In order for me to help more women age stronger, I have created a 90-day one-on-one coaching program. And the goal here is to teach women over 50 how to age stronger while burning fat and boosting energy without going hungry or living in the gym. If you'd like more information, please hit me up at tracy@highenergygirl.com or friend me on Facebook and send me a message. I have a goal of transforming 1,000 women in the next year, and I hope you are one of them. Hey, Alison, thanks so much for coming back on the show today.
I am so glad to be here, Tracy.
So what's new? Well, first of all, let's let the listeners know who you are in case they don't know yet, and then we'll find out what's new in your world.
Well, I am Alison Gannett, and I was diagnosed with terminal malignant brain cancer in 2013. And I just decided that I wanted to live a long, happy life and die of old age. And luckily, I found Dr. Nasha Winters. And, you know, I've listened to your recent podcasts about how you've changed your life. And I was just like, yes, I did that. I did that. I did that. You know, your New Year's resolution, I feel like is my life resolution because I didn't want to die. So here I am.
Here you are. And I remember when I first kind of unofficially met you was you were speaking and showing scans and like befores and afters. So how did you help yourself not die? And then we'll refer back to your old episode because I actually have like pictures on the show notes page and all of that people can check out, which are remarkable.
Well, I can stop the video real quick and then you can see this is what I was dealing with in 2013. And I mean, I'm sure you can relate, right? That we thought we were healthy people before we started this whole journey. You know, I exercised, I was an organic farmer, you know, I grew and raised all my own food, but I didn't know that I was literally killing myself. And, you know, it has been a transformation, as I know you have been through, right? Changing everything. And I have a little new acronym because most of my clients, I now help other people, you know, transform their lives just like you do. And I call it SIT, which is stress, insulin, and toxins. And those are my big three. Of course, that is a very long list if you unpack it. But I think it's a good way to remember what you can do to transform your life. And I think the other thing that really strikes me these days is test, don't guess, because I think a lot of us think that we're like these amazing people and we're super healthy. And all of a sudden you get the cancer word, or you get Alzheimer's, or you get diabetes or heart disease. You know, it would be really nice if we could work with people before they got sick, right? And we do all these things to transform our life, but my meditation coach says we're the planet for slow learners. And I would say that's absolutely true. It really took the sledgehammer of the cancer word for me to realize that the check engine light had been on for probably 20 years, but I just kept putting tape over it.
So like, try to unpack that a little bit. So you're an athlete, you're growing your own food, but you were making yourself sick. How were you making yourself sick?
Well, we'll start with the SIT, stress, insulin, toxins. I would say, you know, I'm a type A personality, and that is a good thing. You can get a lot of stuff done, but you also are like totally going all the time. And I would say, I compare it to, you know, when you have too many applications open on your computer and your computer just like shuts down.
Mm-hmm.
I think we don't realize that we're like overdoing it in this day and age, that we're like continually bombarded with, you know, work and exercise and family. And you've got to be this superwoman, especially women in particular. A lot of people are moms too, and you've got to take care of kids. I thought that that kind of stress was like good stress, but I think what really hit me over the head is when I started meditation in 2018, is that my fasting AM cortisol went from like 22 to like 15 in just like 4 weeks. So I was just wired for stress, and I thought it was a good thing. Like, look how much stuff I can get done in a day. But now I'm like, you need to schedule the downtime. So that is the S. And can you relate?
I can relate that I used to be that way, but I go to bed between 8:30 and 9. I wake up, you know, my sleep score is usually in the 90s on my Oura ring. So not anymore.
Yeah, I mean, sleep is huge. And I would say 90% or more of Americans are just not sleeping. And I used to be a night owl. You know, I would exercise all day and I would work all night. And my doctor, Dr. Nasha Winters, was like, Alison, you may love your job, but it's killing you. You can't do this. So yes, I'm like you, you know, I now treat myself like a 2-year-old baby. You know, you kind of wind down in the afternoon. Instead of having that afternoon coffee, you know, you need to like start slowing down, having some nice tea like I'm having right now, and, you know, take a hot bath or a hot shower, and in bed reading a book, no screen time at night. You know, all those things are so key. And then the elephant in the living room was definitely insulin, which is, you know, we were talking SIT, stress, insulin, toxins. I thought since I was growing and raising all my own food and that I was not eating processed food, that I was just amazing. And it turns out that my fasting insulin was super high. My blood glucose markers were super high. And if you look at all the research into cancer cells, absolutely, their default metabolism is to ferment glucose. And people always think like, I used to think, which is I don't eat sugar. But the problem is I was a vegetarian for 16, 17 years. I was a carbaholic. I didn't mean to make my insulin go sky high and my blood glucose markers sky high, but they were. And plus being an exercise, competing, I was eating like tons of bars and goos and gels. And I had no idea that they had, more sugar than a Snickers bar. And being a farmer, I thought, oh, I'm going to go out and eat 4 peaches, and that is super good for me. Well, that's more sugar than eating 4 Snickers bars. I had no idea. So, I've learned a lot since then.
Yeah, that's so interesting. It's funny. One of my friends, her husband was vegetarian, but he'd eat a whole box of crackers. It's like, okay. So
yeah, and we'll talk about DNA. Like there are people that are predisposed to being good vegetarians, and there are people that are predisposed, such as if you have HFE gene, then you have what's called genetic hemochromatosis, and then you can't eat red meat. So you would be a better vegetarian. But I have this gene that's called TCF7L2, which is a genetic inability to process grains and legumes. And guess what I was eating? All of that, right? So I think that's what's so cool about kind of this day and age is we have so many tools at our disposal to customize our diet, and we can't say, this diet is going to be anti-cancer, or this diet is going to be anti-diabetes or heart disease or Alzheimer's. But you can look at your genetics and you can really see what you personally should or should not be eating.
Yeah, I need to go back and review all that. I had somebody on the show who's he has his own business and he does epigenetics. So he took my 23andMe DNA stuff, and then he kind of did a report and said, okay, you need to do this, you need to do that. And it was a while back, then I kind of forgot about it. So thank you for the reminder.
Well, we should do it together, and we could do another podcast about this, because the coolest thing is your DNA is not like set in stone. Your DNA can be turned on or turned off, which is what you refer to as epigenetics. And the only way to really see what's happening is to look at your labs and to see if a particular gene is turned off or turned on. And this is what is so fascinating about my job is I feel like I'm Sherlock Holmes detective, like putting the puzzle together and knowing what makes me tick and knowing what makes my clients tick. It's like, I always knew that, right? For example, I never had a good reaction to eating raw kale. I always had a hard time with that. And then I got my DNA report back, and lo and behold, I have a gene that requires kale and other brassicas to be cooked in order for me to process them, and also to take a vitamin called 5-methylfolate, which will help me process kale. So it was funny because when I got diagnosed with cancer, I did all these things that the internet said would be anti-cancer, but none of them were specific to me. And so I made a lot of mistakes in the beginning, and luckily Dr. Nasha set me on the right path. Like everybody's different, everybody's wellness, everybody's health, everybody's disease. We're all different.
So before we get to the tea, you reminded me of something, and I want to just get your clarification about it. So I always thought flaxseed wasn't good because it was estrogenic, but then I messaged her on Facebook and wanted clarification. She goes, actually, it mops up extra estrogen. So now I add a tablespoon of flax each day. So I wasn't sure. Did I understand that?
No, you're totally right. Yes. So flaxseed, freshly ground, a lot of people don't realize that. So they'll take, and flaxseed needs to be stored in the freezer or refrigerator so that it's fresh.
Okay. Well, there you go. I'm
So that's
there.
a very critical component, but not all cancers are driven by estrogen. So again, I would want to look at your labs and your DNA, and are you predisposed to storing estrogen in your DNA? Do your labs show me that you do have an estrogen imbalance? And then if so, then we would add flaxseed.
So it's not
So
necessary.
yeah, I mean, it's kind of a catch-22 a little bit, because they say if you go to the bank, the post office, the grocery store, and the gas station, that you're exposed to 200 different types of estrogen in a day.
What?
Yeah, and these are items that aren't necessarily estrogen metabolites. They are items that mimic estrogen.
Right. The
So
phytoestrogens.
most of us are walking around with an excess of these estrogen-like chemicals in our body. And you can see it a lot on a lot of people, when you see a lot of puffy around the neck or even around the midsection. Dr. Nasha calls that like the estrogen belly. And I would call it the estrogen neck, when people have like an extra roll there. So yeah, we are in an environment that's filled with estrogen. So, I would never say that one size fits all, but I would say in general, it's not going to hurt you to grind up a teaspoon or tablespoon of fresh flax seeds and put it in your food.
Okay, but keep it in the freezer.
Keep it in the freezer or the refrigerator. Grind it fresh, like in a coffee grinder, either manual or electric, and then add it to your food that is uncooked.
Okay, yeah, I do. I could probably use a mortar pestle, right?
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Okay, I'll have to start doing that. Okay, learn something new. Got to remember that. Okay, and let's go to tea, because this is a big one.
Oh, I would have put tea under stress, because toxins cause stress, but toxins are so pervasive in our world right now, that I just consider that they had to have their own title. And literally, we're talking about our water, our air, our food, our body products, mold, Lyme disease, parasites, bacteria, radon, dental work, infections. I mean, you could go on all day. The toxins.
Cleaning products, candles.
Yeah, cleaning products are huge. Like, yeah, EWG is my go-to. Do you use them at all?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I found a really good skincare on there that was not expensive at all. And I was able to get like a big old container of it, of this lotion. And I was like, wow. But yeah, no, I like their website.
Yeah. So if people haven't used that, ewg.org, and they have a really great thing on the computer where you can look up, like, try to look at things that you use all the time. Like if you use a particular lipstick or a sunscreen or lotion, don't do your whole, kind of medicine closet, because it's overwhelming. Start with one thing. And what I find really helpful is they actually have an app that you can download to your phone. So if you're at the grocery store and you're like, oh, I wonder if this laundry detergent is bullshit when they say that it's green, because a lot of them say, oh, green detergent. And then you scan it and they're like, it rates it either from A to F or 1 to 5. Basically, green is the color you want. Yellow is kind of moderately toxic. And then red is like, please don't buy this. And,
you just scan it.
Yeah, you could just scan it. Like, for example, I know there's a sunscreen that my mom used. It was Neutrogena. Everybody thinks like, oh, I scanned it and it was like 10. It was like the most toxic sunscreen she could have bought.
Yeah. I don't like sunscreen. I like the
No, me
sun.
neither. I'm all about vitamin D3, and we could talk about probably a whole podcast on vitamin D3.
Yeah, I just went outside, got some D3, did my qigong while I was walking.
Nice. I'm so jealous because it's freezing here. I've got 8 million layers on.
You're in Colorado?
I am.
Okay, that's what I thought. But you're in a healthy state. So,
I mean, relatively speaking, speaking of toxins, I got all my heavy metals tested, which because I live in Colorado, were through the roof. I then got my radon tested in my house through the roof. And then I also got my body tested for all the chemicals that I usually test for people that live in like LA or Tokyo or Hong Kong. I had all those chemicals in my body. I don't know where they're coming from. Other than the fact that I think we're just living in a time where we're just loaded with toxins. And, you know, when I started sauning in 2018, I got out of the infrared sauna and I just broke out in a rash all over my body. That's how many toxins were in my system. And
wow.
I think I'm finally, 4 years later, kind of getting somewhere as far as detoxifying all that stuff.
How often do you go in your sauna and how long do you stay in it?
Well, it's a very personalized question because I've figured, I'm the type A person. So I was like, the more, the better. So if Dr. Nasha says to go in 3 to 5 times a week, 30 minutes, I was going in 7 days a week for 40 minutes. And then I got my labs back and my liver enzymes were through the roof and my inflammation was through the roof. So I was detoxifying too much too fast. So really, before Nasha makes any recommendations to people, she usually looks at their labs. She also looks at their health history, also looks at their DNA, because everybody's a little bit different. You don't want to push toxins out of your body faster than your liver can handle them. And then a lot of people are completely dehydrated, so they have no way of getting the toxins out. Everybody thinks that they're coming out through our skin, but most of the toxins are coming out through our poop and our pee. And so it's really important before and after you sauna, or at least before, is to take some kind of binder, which is usually clay and charcoal, so that the toxins can bind to something so that they can come out when you go to the bathroom. Otherwise, the toxins kind of are mobilized in your body and they're like, okay, now what do I do, right? They're just kind of lost. And we don't want too many toxins in our body. We want them to get the heck out of there.
Oh, I didn't know about that. So clay or charcoal or both?
It's a both. And I alternate between a bunch of different products. GI Detox, I don't remember who makes it, is a combination of clay and charcoal, and it's really easy to take. You don't have to mix up like a slurry of charcoal and clay, which is really, I tried doing that. I was like, I'm going to save money and I'm going to mix this up and drink it. And it was like, no.
Yeah, it's like this, my green drink. It just kind of like a lot of it just sits on the top. So,
right.
But, so it's a capsule with both the clay and the,
yeah.
Okay. I'll have to look for that. That's a great idea. So a friend of mine, okay, I don't know how to say this without getting banned on YouTube. So she had breast cancer 12 years ago and she's been in remission. And then the last 2 years happened and she had 3 of these and now it's back and it's in the form of lymphoma and apparently it's untreatable. And so is that the type of cancer that would also like feed off of glucose? Do you know?
Well, of course, everybody's different. You could take 2,000 people with lymphoma and you would look at, Dr. Nasha has 10 different areas. I have kind of, simplified it to stress, insulin, and toxins. But what I would want to look at is her health history. Go back, lymphoma, Dr. Nasha always says is related to toxins somewhere. Did they live at Love Canal? Did they, like me, live in a Colorado mining town? Or, you can use EWG front/tap water to look at the quality of their water, or you can use Plume Labs to look at the quality of their air, or you could look at, are they living in a new building, and do they have sick building syndrome? I would look for mold. I would also look for insulin, for sure. And then I would also look at stress. And this is, a stressor on the body, causing an immune reaction, which can also sometimes for some people be what we call an immune distraction. So the body's busy doing one thing where, I just read, I used to think that we produced 500 to 2,000 cancer cells a day. I just read a report just 3 days ago that they are saying now every human being on the planet produce about 10,000 cancer cells a day, everybody.
Oh my gosh.
I know. So our body needs to be in tip-top shape so that our immune system's going around like little Pac-Man and gobbling up those cancer cells. So,
recently I saw this video that's really, really old. And it's this lady saying how you take hydrogen peroxide and you rub it on your skin and it absorbs really quickly, but it completes a free radical because I can't remember all the details, but it was like, holy cow. Like it made so much sense. And it's an old video. Have you heard about that?
Nasha does not recommend that at this point. And again, I think a lot, and I fell into this trap in 2013, is I watched every single anti-cancer video, and most of them were things like, you've got to eat kale because it's anti-cancer, or, you've got to de-stress your life, it's anti-cancer. You've got to do this kind of supplement because it's anti-cancer. And the reality is every single one of us is different. Another example I can give is green tea is very anti-cancer. It's also anti-COVID, but I have a gene that does not process green tea. So green tea would be the worst thing for me.
Oh, interesting.
So I basically say it depends
On the
for
person.
everything. I can say lymphomas are historically high insulin, historically low vitamin D3, historically toxins, but then I have seen exceptions to the rule every single day. So everybody's different. And I think that's what's so cool about today's technology is we can look at the tumor pathology. We can look at your lab results. We can look at your DNA. We can look at your health history. And then you can weave them together and figure out, hey, what is the recipe? I think of it, cancer as a recipe. It's a recipe of 1,000 different things that could make a problem. And so if we can deconstruct that recipe and get rid of the ingredients one at a time, then hopefully we all live a long, happy life and die of old age.
That would be good.
Yeah, I mean, I was given 6.8 months to live, and and that was with surgery, chemo, and radiation. And I was like, you know what? That's not good enough for me. I want more.
And how long ago was that?
2013.
And did you have surgery or chemo or radiation?
I did have surgery because the tumor was pressing on the blood vessel there's only 2 blood vessels that go into the brain. And so they were amazed that I hadn't just dropped dead on the street. I don't even remember going into surgery. I don't remember signing the consent form. I don't remember them telling me any of this. So I just woke up, and then all of a sudden, the tumor, they got most of the cancer at that time. But, at the time I was kind of pissed off that they hadn't gotten everything out, but it really, that's kind of the tumor centric model of cancer, is that you need to cut, burn, and poison everything out of your body. And where you look at Dr. Nasha Winters and a lot of new oncologists these days, it's like, okay, why did you get cancer? Let's look at the recipe for the reason that you got cancer, and let's get rid of all those ingredients one by one until you're a healthy person.
I love it. Now, she doesn't take patients anymore. She works to train doctors in her methodology. Is that correct?
Yep. So all of the people that come to me for coaching, I do the diet and lifestyle, where she and her trained team, they do the treatments. So I do the personalized diet. She does the personalized treatments, and we work together as a team. So I require all of my clients that are working with me on nutrition and lifestyle changes to work with one of her trained doctors on their customized treatment. Because, one person might need surgery, chemo, and radiation. The other person might have the completely wrong genetics for that. You can't make gross generalizations about anybody. Every single person is different. And that's what's so cool, is to not lump us all together.
Absolutely. I mean, I 100% agree that we're all different, and everybody's body responds differently to different foods even, so you said earlier that you think how great it would be if we could just catch people before they get cancer. So how do you recommend doing that, Alison?
Well, I am just launching a new program on my website, which is basically a DNA consult. So you can just look at your DNA. And then there's also a comprehensive consult, which is going to be DNA, your labs, your health history, and your diet diary, because I think your diet diary is very valid. Weaving them all together to create, what is your template? What are the foods that you should eat? Should you have coffee or should you not have coffee? Should you have kale? Should you not have kale? Should you have green tea? Should you not have green tea? Should you have red meat? Should you not have red meat? Should you have dairy? Should you not have dairy? These are all dependent on your labs and your DNA. So instead of guessing, it's really cool to look at the numbers.
Yeah, that's a good idea. So when you do labs, is it blood work or different something else? Okay, it's blood work.
Just, running labs through your general practitioner. I recommend all my family to do their a complete set of blood work that I have on my website if people want to see what the blood work is that I recommend, as kind of like a wellness prevention kind of baseline check-in. So if they can do that every year, then you kind of know what their normal is, what might be some problem areas. I would say every single person in my family, when we looked at their blood work and their DNA, had some kind of problem that really needed to be addressed that was not manifesting itself in your everyday life. So
interesting.
It's really cool that you can see that.
And then get out ahead of it.
Well, like my husband, for example, he had genetic hemochromatosis, which is an excess buildup of iron. And everybody thinks like, oh, more iron is good. Well, iron at a certain level kills you. It becomes toxic. So we found out that he had this condition because, of course, I made him run his DNA in his labs. We found out when he was 45, people with this condition usually die between 50 and 55. And then we found out that his father died at 52 and likely of the same condition.
Oh, so you saved his life.
Well, I thank my lucky stars every day that I got cancer, because if I hadn't gotten cancer, we never would have found his genetic condition. And so now his whole family can test for that condition and then, do preventive measures when the kids are little, as opposed to waiting until it becomes a big problem.
Yeah. Gosh, there's so many things it could be too. There's so many different conditions. So you were able to turn off his gene switch so that didn't affect him. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Well, what you can do, everybody's different again, but generally, if you have high ferritin on your labs, what your doctor will usually recommend, if you test positive for genetic hemochromatosis on your DNA and you see it in the labs, the combination, then his general practitioner, with my urging, prescribed what's called a therapeutic blood draw. So he goes and gives blood every 3 months, and that keeps his iron levels like a normal person, which is amazing. He has to give a pint of blood every 3 months. And ideally for people like him or like my clients that have high ferritin, it would be no red meat, no cast iron pans, no bone broth made out of red meats. Now, that's about half of the people over here, maybe 25%. And then over here are people with low ferritin. And so they need more red meat, more cast iron pans, more bone broth. So it's really important to know which you are.
Gosh, I haven't been to the doctor in a long time. Like years. So I should probably get all my labs done and everything. What do you think about mammograms?
Well, I just go off of what Dr. Nasha says. And then also there's a bunch of studies out of, I think, Sweden, I believe, showing that mammograms over time, it's enough radiation to cause cancer, is basically what I've heard Dr. Nasha say. So have you ever interviewed Dr. V?
Dr. V.
Veronica. I'm trying to think of her last name, but you can Google her. She has that you can use a combination of her techniques of the way she does a self breast exam, combined with ultrasounds, is what she recommends. And, obviously everybody's got to make their own decision of what works for them. But me personally, I use the self exam, ultrasounds, and then I also use a thermogram, which is what a doctor does not consider to be like legal. But my boobs, I can show you some pictures of what my boobs looked like when I was diagnosed in 2013, and they were a disaster. Basically on the thermogram, if things are red or orange or yellow, that's inflammation. And the worst color you can see is white. And my boobs were all those colors, like inflammation. And then I would say, let's see, 2015, I had a scan and my boobs were all blue and green. So that was just cool. Implementing, the ketogenic diet, the therapeutic carb restriction, low carb, high fat, whatever you want to call it. The more fat I added and the less carbs I had, the better my scans got. And it was interesting because my doctors had said in 2011 that you have breast fibroids. They're very dangerous. We're going to need to do mammograms every 6 months. And, these are hereditary and they're never going to go away. Boom. I changed my diet, changed my lifestyle, and they all went away.
So how do you do a thermogram?
Oh, what's hard is to find a good provider. It's easy to get a thermogram. You basically go in a room, you get scanned. It's a very cold room. It's very uncomfortable. You're naked. They're looking for inflammation with this thermogram. But again, standard Western medicine isn't going to consider it like legal as far as looking for things. But what was fabulous that I found is to find someone that really knows how to read a thermogram. My nurse practitioner that reads my thermogram, she also looks at all my labs. So she's cross-referencing the two together, which is very hard to find. And what I can say is the differences before and after were just amazing. And I already knew I had a thyroid problem. And when I did my thermogram, basically my thyroid looked, lit up like a Christmas tree. So, but I could even see, like I was talking to you about, how I knocked out all my teeth surfing. You could see the inflammation from where my teeth had been damaged. Wow. So I could even see that I might have some toxins from dental issues actually showed up on my full body thermogram.
Wow. I was just talking to somebody about that because everybody, well, not everybody, but a lot of people are aware that the old amalgam fillings are not good for us. And so they have them removed, but they have them removed unhealthily. And then that leaks into your body.
Yeah. I mean, Nasha said, like, when I had dental issues, she was like, don't touch a thing. Even to this day, I'm 8.5 years out. She's like, don't even get your teeth cleaned because it can really kick up an inflammatory storm. You have to really prep yourself. Your labs have to be super stable. We have to look at your DNA and its response to mercury. And then there's only, maybe 2 or 3 dentists in the United States that I would consider safe enough to remove amalgam fillings, because you basically have to be on oxygen as the patient, which is hard if you're having your teeth removed, your fillings removed. And then you've got to be in a hazmat suit. They've got to be in a hazmat suit. Then you've got to have like a ventilator up above you because mercury comes out of your mouth and then settles on the floor. There was this crazy story with one of my clients when they pulled up the carpet. She was a dental hygienist for 30 years in this office and then got cancer. And they basically remodeled the dental office and they pulled up the carpet and they found a pool of mercury just sitting there, like, on the concrete.
Wow. That is disgusting. It's like the Mad Hatter's disease. And for some reason, dentists have like a very, very high suicide rate. They must just go freaking crazy from the mercury.
And, that you should explain the Mad Hatter theory. A lot of people don't know that when they shaped hats, they used mercury to shape those hats. And so the people who shaped hats then started going crazy from the mercury. And literally, that is the same thing that is happening to people in the dental industry. I can't tell you how many people who work in the dental industry are my clients. It's a lot. And it's also a lot of people that are artists, like painters exposed to toxins from paint, whether you're painting a building or painting a picture. Jewelers, exposed to all the toxins from making jewelry, so, I mean, my mind is just blown with.
Oh yeah. We've got to clean up the environment. And from what I'm hearing, so what chemtrails are, right? Well, from what I'm hearing is the people who are on the good side of helping our world have taken over and are putting good things into our environment to heal our water, to heal our soil, to heal our earth, because it's been poisoned for so long with the aluminum and all the other things. And it's heartbreaking, but the good news is we're on the other side of that, is what I'm hearing. So
I hope so. My blood work does not say that.
well, it's recent. So
yeah, well, all we can do is, I think what's really important is to think about what you can do versus what you can't do. So I can decide that this tea is organic and the tea bag is not made out of plastic and that my water is filtered. I can't change the fact that Southwest Airlines flies over our farm 4 times a day. I can change the fact that I grow and raise my own food, or I can buy food locally from someone who grows and raises it with as much care that I do. The simple thing of just filtering your water. I mean, that is huge, and not drinking out of plastic water bottles. There's so many little things that we can do.
what kind of water filter do you have?
It really depends. Again, if you go to ewg.org/tap water, then you've got to see what's in your water. Once you know what's in your water, then you need to choose the correct filter. So for example, our water was very radioactive. So I needed a filter. Well, that's radon. Colorado, we live, everything is radioactive under the ground. It's not because I live at a uranium mine. It's because many states, you can also go to EPA/radon. You can get a map of the country. You can see how radioactive it is where you live.
Wow.
So, then you choose your water filter that is correct for the job.
Okay. That's so smart. I love it. You're so wise. So if you were to tell people 3 things that they can do right now to help themselves so that they can avoid, besides of course going to your website, ordering the blood work, which I need to do. But what would you say are some application tips that people could do to get started on this journey?
Always drink filtered water. Never drink out of plastic water bottles, ever. Like whether you buy it at the store or you're storing it. And same with your food. Never store in plastic. Plastic is an estrogen mimicker. So we really want to get away from plastic. And plastics have so many carcinogenic chemicals in them that I won't even go into the list. So that's number 1. Get rid of plastic, get filtered water. Number 2, take vitamin D3, probably the single biggest thing you can do to improve your chances of not getting COVID or of having COVID with less symptoms. And also it is a huge hormone in the body. So it really helps if you take vitamin D3 first thing in the morning, never at night, because it will keep you awake if you take it at night. So it's really important for helping reset your circadian rhythms. And also studies have shown it's incredible. If you can keep your vitamin D3 level, and this is USA, I think it's ng per ml, anyway, between 80 and 120, which is very high. That's what Dr. Nasha recommends. Most people in the US are around 30. So if you can get that up there and get in the sunshine like you are. And then I think the last thing would be is to find maybe kind of stress or prayer or mindfulness or something that you love to do outside, something to bring peace and calmness and happiness to your life. Because I mean, this is one shot, so often we think we're just going to put our head down and we're going to work really hard. And, then someday we're going to have fun, and meditation has really changed my life. And I just appreciate having a near-death experience. I really appreciate the small things in life. And like you recommended, like keeping a gratitude journal, like there's so many things that are wonderful about our lives. And we just want to take advantage of that. And life is short. And
yeah. I have a great story to tell you. So I am not a good sit there and meditate for 10 minutes. Okay. That's not me. My meditation is go out in nature, listen to the birds, be unplugged, and talk to God. Okay. So I've gotten really connected. I mean, like I've had birds come to my back porch and let me pet them. So the other day I saw a bald eagle up on the mountain. We were mountain biking, and I saw a bald eagle, which I never see. So today I'm coming back, driving down the road because I was taking my dogs home from the groomer, and I see the mountain. I go, I want to go find the nest. Somebody told me where they think it is. And so I want to go on a hike and see if I can find it. It's been years since I've seen a bald eagle. And next thing I know, I kid you not, I look in the field that I was driving next to, and there was a bald eagle flying above it. And I'm like, it's so cool.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's like you manifested a bald eagle. And
yeah. Like I just manifested it. I mean, I caught there was this, what is it? A hummingbird trapped in my garage. And I was trying to save it because it kept bashing into the window. And I was trying to take like a broom or a towel, like trying to shoo it away. And I couldn't. So finally I just reached and I grabbed it. And then I put it in my hand to let it fly away. And it wouldn't fly away. So then I walked it outside to some flowers and it finally flew away. But it just like rested in my hand. It was just like all these things. It's really, really cool. So I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's, cancer has been the worst thing that ever happened to me, but also like the best thing that ever happened to me. I never would have experienced any of this transformation without it. It really gave me a kick in the ass, and also, brought me to a new level of spirituality that I never had before. And, kind of that meditation that I have in the morning brings me a level of like kind of peace that I never had found before. I used to pray for a clear scan every year, which, truth be told, I still want that. But when I actually meditate about that, I now say to myself that I hope that I can handle with grace whatever the world throws at me, because handling these things with grace is all we can really do.
Mm-hmm. So when you meditate, what does your meditation routine look like?
Well, I have a teacher, and for the first couple of years, it was really critical for him to kind of teach me how to meditate, because truthfully, like I think learning to meditate is harder than learning how to like surf, for example. It's really hard he doesn't teach like doing something or thinking about something. It's more shifting into neutral. So like if you drive a stick shift and like what it feels like when your car is in neutral, like my brain is always racing ahead or thinking about the things I made mistakes in the past. And so I'm trying to just like settle in the middle and not think, which sounds so easy, but it's so impossible. Mm-hmm. So he has a lot of different strategies to do that, and practicing with him over the years. I mean, now it comes really easily for me, but in the beginning it was torture.
How long do you do it for?
I meditate for about 40 minutes in the morning. Wow. Yeah. And, usually in the sauna, which is nice because I can kind of do two things at once. But, when I'm not in the sauna, if I miss a day, my husband or my family will be like, wow, you're really bitchy today. So I have learned that I don't have the personality. Like if I do it, it just transforms my whole day. And then in the afternoon, I usually like walk or ride or, have the dogs. So I have that like kind of nature meditation is my afternoon meditation. And sometimes I'll do a mantra if I'm walking. Also, have you read the book Breath? So I work on the breath work. You should put that on your to read list. It's all about how we don't breathe correctly. And it's about how to breathe through our nose and how to breathe in for 5 and breathe out for 5. And how we're a whole nation of shallow breathers and mouth breathers. So how to breathe through our nose. That book was really probably one of the most interesting scientific books I read this year.
Have you heard of Soma?
Yeah.
Okay. So I got certified for Soma breathwork meditation. And I also used to teach Pilates. And so that has a lot to do with breath. But I love doing breath work. I love when I would teach yoga and have them really expand and hold and then contract. And, your lungs are important like any other muscle or organ or whatever. So,
yeah.
Okay, listen, where can people find you, Alison?
On my website, AlisonGannett.com, and that's ALISON. G as in George, ANN as in Nancy, ETT as in Tom.com.
And if they wanted to do the blood work, your list or your order is on your website.
The drop down thing under coaching.
Okay. And then if they needed their DNA, is 23andMe acceptable?
23andMe is much more about your ancestry. I recommend on my website, I have a link in there to the company that I work with because it's much more about food and what you can eat and what you can't eat and lifestyle. So I really want to know, 23andMe will tell me where you came from, but it's not going to tell me if you can eat kale.
No, it has the genetic one too. Like you can see
if
you
have, but it is just, I can work with it, but it's just not as detailed.
Okay. Got it. Okay.
It's okay. If you wanted I could give you about 20% of what I normally give with a 23andMe.
Okay. No, the other one's better than
Yeah.
It's like my dad died of cancer, 2020. Well, I don't really know how he died, but I do know he had cancer. So I don't know what his death was because it could have been COVID. I don't know. Right. So anyway, but
most cancers are not genetic. That's what a lot of people think, like, oh, I have bad genes. My mom died of cancer. My grandmother died of cancer. They think like, oh, that means I'm going to die of cancer. Well, genes just predispose you to certain things. Like, for example, my genes predispose me to not process toxins very well. So the heavy metals that I was exposed to for 20 years in my drinking water became a problem with my DNA. But that's why, like, I could have a twin sister if I had one who drank the same water. If we were not fraternal twins, she might not have the same problem with the water. And that's what's so interesting is you want to look at your genes for what you can eat, what you can't eat, how you process stress, how you process different foods, also how you process different medications, how you process different toxins. So that can that can kind of set you up with a recipe so that you don't repeat what might have happened to your dad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And his doctor was ridiculous, said, oh, they would feed him, seriously, Allison, sugar at chemo.
Oh, I know.
And I said, Dad, you can't eat that. He goes, oh, my doctor said it doesn't matter what I eat, Tracy. I'm like, oh,
well, they think that sugar makes people gain weight. And it does. But as we know, that those carbs are empty calories, right? So I eat ice cream and brownies every day. They just don't happen to have sugar in them, or they don't happen to have, carbs in them other than the cacao. So I feel like I can have my cake and eat it too. I can stay below, 20 total carbs or 12 net carbs and have like the best food ever. And that's what I love, And
you have recipes on your website. So for those listening, go check out our website. She has really good recipes. I
wrote a whole cookbook and I'm in the process of getting it published. Yay. So it's Alison's anti-cancer recipes and cookbook. So.
Oh, good. I'll buy one for my best friend. So, well, listen, Alison, thank you. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I would love to take you up on the offer about reviewing what is going on, so just let me know.
Let's do a podcast about it if you're open to it. It would be fun.
Yeah, I'm an open book. I don't care. If anything that happens to me is able to help somebody else,
exactly.
I don't care. I talk about stuff that's usually TMI, and my husband cracks up. He goes, I love how you make fun of yourself all the time. I'm like, well, everybody else does. I might as well do it too,
Well, we all learn from our mistakes. And, I have learned a lot from my mistakes. But what is so cool is to tell everybody that there's hope, because no matter how poorly I treated my body, and then I see my clients that, have all kinds of things going on. The body bounces back. Every single cell in our body turns over between 30 days and 90 days. So we can literally remake ourselves in 90 days, which is truly a miracle, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. My doctors are just like, I don't understand why you're still alive. And I said, well, I've worked really hard. And do you know what their answer was? Oh, you got a new job?
Oh, gosh.
I'm like, oh gosh, they have no idea what I'm talking about. I'm just going to stop talking right now, because looking at the root cause of illness does not help drive prescription drug sales. And we have a disease care management system, not a healthcare management system. And hooray for you and all the work that you've done to make people realize that there's optimal health out there. Mm-hmm. So thank you.
Well, thank you. I will be in touch with you soon.
Namaste. Have a wonderful day.
You too, my dear. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed the show. For complete show notes, along with Alison's link, please head on over to highenergygirl.com/show. Go out and make it a great day, you guys. This podcast contains the opinion and thoughts of its host and guests. It is intended to provide helpful and informative material on the subjects covered. All statements made on the podcast have not been evaluated by the FDA and are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent disease. If the listener requires professional assistance or advice, please contact your personal medical doctor. Both host and guest specifically disclaim any responsibility for any liability, loss, or risk, personal or otherwise, which is incurred as a consequence directly or indirectly of the use and application of any of the contents of these episodes. Like I said, this is my opinion and I could be wrong.